good evening.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Okay, so today is going to be the demo session, or you can say the introductory session for MCSA, right? So what and all topics we are going to cover in this module, we are going to talk about that, and how we can proceed with the labs, or what and all topics that is that we are going to discuss. So regarding that topics, we have to configure the labs also. Okay, so in order to configure the labs, so how we can configure the lab, how, what and all tools we can use. Okay, so these all things we are going to talk about, right? So first of all, MCSA, right, that is Microsoft certified exam, right? It was earlier, you can give the exam for MCSA, right? But now they have retired. So in Microsoft, the exam is not available, right? But still you have to go through with it, because in real time, or in the real industries, right, you have to work on the servers, you have to configure the servers, you have to configure the domain controllers, you have to configure the file servers, failover cluster, network load balancing, IIS server, multiple kind of features are there that you have to work on. Okay, but if you want to go for exam, right, if you want to certify, then in that case there is one exam called AZ 800. Okay, so if you want that, you want to be certified in the servers, then in that case you can go for AZ 800 exam, right? Or if you don't want to go for AZ 800, then you can go for 104 as well, that is a cloud administrator. Because see, if you want to work on Azure, even if you want to work on AWS also, then in that case you should have the working knowledge of servers. You should be aware of that, how to work on servers, what and all features can be installed onto a server. Okay, so now in this module we are going to cover multiple topics, right, which is going to help you out in your current organization, or else if you are looking for any job in the system administration. Okay, so in that case also it is going to help you out, as well as if you want to learn cloud also, right, then this is needed, then the knowledge of servers is needed, then it will be easy for you to learn the cloud technology, right? So basically you can say it is a prerequisite in order to go for cloud technology, or in order to go for cyber security, right? So you have to be very handy on the servers. Okay, so it is, first of all, the sessions are going to be interactive, right? That means whenever we are going to perform the lab, or whenever we are talking about any of the topic, right, so in between, if you have any kind of confusion, then in that case you can unmute yourself, and at that time itself you can clear your doubts, right? So it is going to be a interactive classes, where actually no need to worry about the things that you are not able to understand and all. Okay, first of all we'll try to understand the concept. If you are able to understand it, then only we will go for the labs, right? Then a language, obviously, if you want to go for English, then it also fine. If you want to go for Hindi, then it is also fine. We have both the options available. So based on your requirement, we will be switching on to the language part.
Sir, this is Savaj. Actually, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Uh, we are we are going to use which version of server? 2022 or
2019.
earlier?
2019.
2020. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Or I'm okay with 22 as well. Okay, if you want to go for 2022, I'm okay with that as well.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank
but
you.
still major of the organizations are working on 2016 or 2019. They have not opted for 2022, but slowly they are opting for 2022 as well.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And let, just for your knowledge, most of the organizations are working on 2012 R2 also. Okay, but
Okay.
Microsoft is going to expire the support for 2012 R2 in October, in like in next month, right? So now the companies are moving to the latest version of the operating system. Okay. This is just for your additional knowledge that Microsoft is going to expire even if you are using 2012 R2 in your current organization. So you can ask your management that Microsoft is going to terminate the support for 2012 R2. So what you have to do, you have to upgrade your servers from 2012 to 2016, 19 or 2022. It depends on the organization that which flavor of operating system they want to use, right? Okay, then obviously, so I have around 7 years of experience in cloud as well as in on-premises environment. I have worked on both on VMware, on Citrix, on Hyper-V, right? And well, I'm working on AWS also, I'm working on Azure also, right? So based on the experience that I have gained in the past years, right, I am going to deliver all the lectures. Right? So how companies are using these tools, how companies are configuring the servers. So based on that only, I'm just going to deliver my lectures. And the labs also, it is totally based on the real-time scenarios. Okay. Then you will be having the pre-recorded video as well. Now let's say you want to see the videos first of all, then in that case you can get the access also. Maybe you will get, once you will going to enroll, in that case you will be getting the pre-recorded sessions, pre-recorded videos as well. Or even these sessions are going to be recorded, right? So once we are done with the class, so next day you are going to get the video of that particular lecture on your portals, right? So then we can help you out in placements also. Let's say if there is any of the we are not committing it, but if we have any kind of openings, right? Or if let's say recruiters are approaching us that they have some placements, they have some jobs in their organization. So in that case, obviously we are going to forward your profiles for the screening, right? So these are all the benefits that you are going to get once you are going to enroll for MCSA. And then what and all topics we are going to cover. See, earlier, the 3 exams you have to go through with in order to get the certification. Even I'm also MCSA certified, right? So 3 exams you have to give, that is 740, 741 and 742, under which multiple topics are there. Okay. So first of all, 742 exam that was related to the Active Directory. Have you ever heard about AD? Any one of you? Have you ever worked on AD?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is Savaj.
Yes, please.
Yes, presently, I'm working as a senior system engineer, so I am hands-on with this. So I wanted to learn basic to advanced level of Active Directory. That's why I
Okay.
joined.
So that means you already are working on ADs and you have worked on group policies
Yes,
and
yes, yes, yes.
all these stuff, right? Related to AD.
Right.
Okay, so that's great, right? So we have some like person who are already aware of the AD, but still I am going to teach from the very scratch that why AD is needed, why to configure the AD, and what and all kind of domain controllers that we can configure. See, in order to manage the AD, what we have to do, we have to configure the domain controllers, DCs, right? And we have, but nowadays companies are moving to Azure AD. Okay, so in that case, Azure, in case of Azure AD, no need to configure the domain controllers. But obviously, if a organization is there, so might be they were using the domain controllers. So in that case, what and all users are there. So let's say I have 50,000 users in my domain controller, and my organization want to move to Azure Active Directory. Then in that case, obviously that 50,000 users that I have in my on-premises environment or on my on-prem AD, I have to move them to the Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. Okay, so in that case, you should have the knowledge of domain controllers. You should be aware of DCs. Then only you will be able to migrate the users, or you will be able to sync the users from your on-prem AD to Azure AD. Okay. So in this case, we are going in this module, we are going to talk about the Active Directory domain services, right? And then ADDS, In Azure Active Directory also, or if you want to manage the AD, then in that case, there are 4 types of domain controllers that you have to configure. Or it depends on the organization also. Sometimes organizations are using all kind of domain controllers. That will be primary domain controller. Let me go to the diagram.
So we will be learning about everything now in this
Everything.
implementation part as well.
Exactly. It is totally implementation, right? I'm not going to cover the theoretical things, right? So what and all topics are there in my list that are totally based on the implementation, that are totally based on the practicals. Okay. Okay. So what I have to do, servers, right? Primary domain controller. So in that case, companies are using all types of domain controller depending upon their infrastructure, right? Depending upon the requirement, you can configure all types of domain controller. So first of all, each topic we are going to understand through diagram, right? How it is working, how the transmission will take place, how the data will transfer. Everything we are going to understand with the help of diagram, and then based on that diagram, we are going to implement it in our lab. Okay. So we have to configure 4 types of domain controller. First is going to be primary domain controller, PDC. This is must. This is must. Without PDC, you will not be able to configure any kind of domain controller. PDC is must. Have you ever heard about Forest?
Yes, sir.
So what is Forest?
The combined, complete everything
Complete
under this
instance of your AD.
multiple domains come under it.
Exactly. That is the complete instance of AD.
Yeah.
Right? So the complete instance is your PDC, primary domain controller. Primary domain controller is that server over which you are going to configure a forest. And under that forest, you can add multiple types of domain controller, multiple types of domains, right? Then the second domain controller is going to be the additional domain controller, ADC. Let me write down the, okay, this is fine, right? Let's use this one. That is PDC, right? And PDC stands for primary domain controller, where actually you are going to configure the forest. Right? And then we have additional domain controller. Why ADC is needed? Why ADC is needed?
Sir, for
नाम से कुछ
replica.
पता लग रहा है?
Yes, sir. Additional domain controller.
Exactly. Why it is needed?
Because of
Replication.
replication, sir.
Right. Because
Disaster recovery.
it is not DR
No,
actually.
not DR.
Yeah, DR is another thing that also we are going to cover. Okay, but that is other thing. Okay, now why ADC is needing? See guys, obviously the PDC we are going to configure on a hardware, right? So it might possible that this hardware is down. There is some
Right.
issue with the hardware, or let's say there is some maintenance activity going on this primary domain controller. Maintenance activity, you can say like you are doing patching on the server, right? So in order to perform the patching, you will be needing a reboot, right? So during that reboot, this PDC is not going to serve, will not be able to serve the services to your clients. Yes or no?
Right.
So obviously, in a production environment, these are very critical things, right? The users will not be able to authenticate. So in that case, what I can do, I can configure an additional domain controller. In that case, whatever the objects are going to be there in my PDC, objects in the sense users, computers, groups, organizational units, OUs. So all these things are going to be replicate on my additional domain controller, so that if this PDC is not available, if this PDC earlier, this laptop, this user is authenticating from my ADC, sorry, primary domain controller. But now, as I told, this is there is some maintenance activity going on. So in that case, it will not be able to authenticate. So what I can do, I can configure one ADC so that if this is down, if this PDC is down, then in that case, the system will be able to authenticate from my additional domain controller. So it is going to be the image copy of my primary domain, right? Then we have child domain controller, CDC. Sorry. CDC, that is called child domain controller. So why this is needed? Now let's say my corporate office is in London, right? And I have multiple branches of my offices of my company. Let's say it is one is in India, one is in Australia, one is in US, right? Then in that case, primary domain controller is going to be there in my corporate office in London, right? And then this CDC, then CDC I can configure based on my locations, right? Let's say this CDC is for India. Now what it will do, whatever the users are going to be there in my India office, they are going to connect with my CDC and they are going to authenticate with the help of CDC. They need no to connect with primary domain controller. So what I can do, I can segregate my traffic. Every time it is not needed to configure the PDC, because PDC can be, PDC is going to be single only in the organization. PDC will be single. Only one forest we can configure. If let's say I have a company with the name abc.com, for that abc.com, I can configure only one primary domain controller. I cannot create multiple types of primary domain in case of abc.com. Only one single can be created. Okay. Then under that primary domain, I can add additional domain. I can add child domain. So based on my locations, I can create the child domain controller, so that the users who are sitting in that location, they need no to authenticate with the primary domain controller. They will be able to authenticate directly from CDC. Yes, they can come, they can connect with primary domain controller also. They can authenticate from PDC also. Why? Because whenever I am going to configure a child domain controller in my environment, so by default, there would be a trust going to be configured between both the domain controllers. And that trust is called parent-child trust. So let's say now this India user is traveling to London. So earlier he was authenticating from the India child domain controller. But now he's traveling to London. Then in that case, he will be able to authenticate from the PDC. Right? And then we have a read-only domain controller, RODC. Wherever you have any confusion, just unmute yourself and do let me know. RODC. That is called as read only domain controller. As the name suggests, read only. See guys, in case of, it is same like ADC, but now it has only read permissions. That means if let's say my primary domain controller is down, then in that case in ADC, in the absence of PDC, in my ADC, I can create the user's account. I will be having the permission to create the user's account in the ADC when my primary domain controller is down. But in case of RODC, you cannot do this thing. It is going to be the replica, no doubt. It is going to be the replica of your primary domain. Or it can be of your CDC also. It depends that what your how you are designing your infrastructure. Okay, so this ADC you can configure for your child domain also. Now let's say if India child domain controller is down, then how the users will be able to authenticate? For again, for this India CDC, you can configure one more additional domain controller, so that if this server is not available, then the backup of this server will be able to serve the services to my users, to my clients. Okay. But in case of RODC, I will not be able to create the user's account. It is going to be the replica of primary domain, no doubt. But here in read-only domain controller, I will not be able to create any kind of user's account. I can see that yes, user one is there. I will not be able to reset the user's passwords also onto RODC. I will not be able to delete them. I will not be able to change their membership. Right? So why it is needed then? If I'm not able to do any kind of thing, then why it is needed? It is just for the authentication purpose. Just for authentication. Means now let's say you have one remote location. In India, you have one remote location. It's in village, let's say. Right? And on that location, multiple users are there. Now let's say 15 to 20 users are there. So how these users will be able to authenticate? How these users will be able to get the group policies? How I will be able to manage these users? So in that case, I am going to set up one read-only domain controller onto that remote location, so that these users will be able to take the policies, and these users will be able to authenticate, and they will be able to log in onto their devices. So these four types of, just a second. So these four types of domain controllers we are going to configure in our labs. Yes, please.
So this is the one read-only domain controller. This is the one which is used to authenticate generally, now, like in UAGs and like when we are using the cloud environment during the authentication through, let's take an example of the VMware.
Okay.
Through when users log in through UAGs, they authenticate it through read-only domain controller or the child domain controller.
It depends. It depends on the DNS that is provided to the system. Okay, so it might possible they will be having the DNS of CDC. It might possible they will be having the DNS of RODC. So it totally depends on the DNS address that you are providing to the client machines. Okay. Okay, so these four domain controllers we are going to configure, right? And then we are going to talk about DNS also. Right? Zones in DNS, forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone, Active Directory integrated zone, primary zones, stub zones, right? Then forwarders, route hints, conditional forwarders, how to add the entry, how to add a host record, how to add a CNAME record. So these all things are included in the DNS topic, right? Then, so these all things, ADFS. Have you ever heard about SSO, single sign-on? Yes, so that is the configuring the federation services. Might be you're using Jira in your organization, or you're
Yes, sir.
using ADP portal,
Mm,
right?
yes, sir.
So on that portal, you are able to log in with your company email account. Ideally, it should be user1@jira.com, right?
Yeah,
But you are able
it
to
is
log
same.
in
Yes, sir.
with your user account, your email ID. Why so? This is because of single sign-on SSO. You have to configure the federation services between both the organizations, right? So that you will be able to log in with your email account onto the portal. Likewise, we have multiple things like Qualys, Datadog, and then your Automox. We have multiple tools that we are using in the organization. Even you can take one more example of Office 365, right? Ideally, it should be user1@hotmail.com or outlook.com, but you are able to log in with your email account, your company's email account. So that is because of Federation Trust. Okay, and nowadays these Federation services you can configure directly on the Azure AD. 70 to 80% organizations are configuring this on the Azure AD, right? But how to configure it in our on-prem environment, we are going to talk about in this topic.
Sir,
Yes,
this ADFS means, sorry, the SSO and MFA. These both are different, completely different service, or it is same, little bit same, or
it
there
comes
is some
under
difference.
ADFS itself. If you
Okay,
want to
both of
configure
them.
MFA, so you have to configure the ADFS also. Okay, once you will configure the ADFS, and then you are going to get the option to configure the multi-factor authentication. Okay. Okay, so now we have configuring a forest domain, configuring the AD infrastructure, then zone transfer. Have you ever heard about FSMO roles?
No, sir.
Okay, so FSMO is basically the roles who are going to manage your Active Directory, or what and all things you can perform, what and all operations you can perform on the Active Directory. It is basically managed by that 5 FSMO roles.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, please, Jonas.
Actually, in my present organization, I have done a register with the Active Directory and ADC. Okay. So first, I am going to restart the primary domain container. Okay. Then all the users and the group policies are automatic deactivated from ADC also. So in that case, if I'm going to any kind of restart or anything with the primary domain controller, I have to transfer all the FSM roles to the ADC, right?
No. Yes, yes. If you want to make that ADC as a primary domain controller,
Yeah.
and in that case, you have to transfer that 5 FSMO, and then the ADC will become as a primary domain controller.
Right. If I'm not transferring the all the FSM role, then this time, if I'm restarting or shutting down the primary domain controller, then all the group policies and all the Active Directory settings are available on ADC.
Yes, it is going to be there.
Actually, in my test purpose, I'm doing that, but I don't know why. All the users and the GPOs are gone with the restart of PDC.
Just you rebooted them, right? You
No,
rebooted your
I
primary.
shut it down. I shut it down already. Then after that, I'm opening the ADC. Then I see there's no users and no GPOs and anything. Then after that, I'm transferring all the roles. Then I can see the
No, it should
users and
not be.
anything.
It should not be like this, Shabazz. You're doing
Maybe
something wrong there.
I
Maybe you're doing
think
something wrong there. I will show you
there.
once we will configure the
Okay,
additional domain controller. Once we will
okay,
come to this topic over there, just do remind me, and I'm going to you can just unmute yourself at that time, right?
okay,
And just do let me know what and all steps you have followed, and then I
okay,
will correct you, right? What would be
okay,
the
okay,
correct steps? Okay.
okay, okay.
For now,
Thank you.
like, it is not easy for me to explain the things, okay?
All
Because
right,
this is
right, right,
just an
right.
introductory session, right?
Once the
Maybe
topic
others will
is
get
coming, then
confused.
I will remind you.
Exactly, exactly. Just remind me that thing, okay?
Okay, okay,
No
okay.
worries. Yeah. Okay. So guys, just to give you the glimpse like what he was asking basically, now let's say if my primary domain controller is not working I'm not able to troubleshoot the issues going on my primary domain controller. Then obviously, this ADC also, there is a limit to create the users and objects in this ADC, right? So what I have to do, I have to transfer the 5 FSMO roles from PDC to ADC so that this ADC will become as a primary domain controller. Earlier, it was just working for the backup, right? But if you're not able to troubleshoot the issue, or let's say the hardware goes down and it is taking around 10 to 15 days to troubleshoot the issue, then in that case, what you can do, you can transfer the roles from PDC to ADC, right? And for this transfer also, there are two methods. Either when you are able to communicate, then in that case, you can do the normal transfer, right? But if you are not able to communicate, then you have to forcefully transfer the roles by using seize command. This is just for your knowledge, but don't worry, once we are going to touch up this topic over there, I will let you know. Okay, now the trust, configuring trust. Now might be you have heard about that multiple organizations are merging, right? You can take the example of L&T and Mindtree. Right now it is called as something L&T Mindtree. I'm not sure what's the correct name, but these two organizations are merged. Like you can take the example of Vodafone and Idea, right? So obviously now these are two different forests. The users of Vodafone will not be able to log in onto Idea systems, and Idea users will not be able to log in onto the Vodafone system. So if I need to make the trust, if I want that both the users will be able to communicate, they will be able to use the resources of each other, then in that case, I have to configure the trust. So there are multiple types of trust that we can configure. Forest wide trust, shortcut trust, parent child trust, tree root trust. So these all are the interview questions basically. Whenever you are going to sit for the interview, then in that case, if you are going for a system administration or even for cloud ops also, then in that case, they are going to ask about what is AD, what are FSM roles, what are trust, how to configure the trust, why trusts are needed, in what scenario you have to configure the trust. So all these can be the scenario based questions. Okay, so what and all could be the interview question, right? Obviously, what and all topics we are going to cover under that topic itself, I'm going to help you out that what and all interview questions can be asked by the interviewer. Okay. Then operation master, AD server roles, that is fine, RODC, ADFS, okay. Then the managing AD accounts, right? You want to configure a roaming profile, right? Or you want to configure the folder redirection for a particular user, right? Then in that case, how we can do it? So it comes under the AD accounts and all. How to reset the user's password, how to define the complexity of the password. So these all things we are going to work on the group policy, right? Using group policy, how you can install the softwares. Using group policy, how you can install the printers. Using group policy, uh, how you can define the complexity of the password. It can be a 12 digit correct 12 digit password or 14 digit, right? You have seen, might be in your internet banking, right? You are not able to use your previous password, right? So how to set up all these things? So all these things can be done under GPOs. और भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं that we are going to cover under it. So group policy, what and all, like basics group policy, what and all companies are using the policies, we are going to cover that part. Or even you can help me out with any of the scenario. Let's say there is some requirement in your organization, so for that, what could be the group policy that we can implement? Okay, so totally based on the scenario how companies wants to define it. Okay, so there are multiple types of templates available. There are number of templates available in order to work with the group policy. It totally depends on our requirement. Okay, you want to define any wallpaper, background wallpaper, right? You don't want that your users will be able to view C drive. You don't want that your user will be able to see the time on your taskbar. right? So all these things can be done through the group policies. Okay. Then if let's say your policies are down, right, then in the sorry, you accidentally you deleted one group policy, right? So how to get it back? So in order to do this, we have to take the backup of our policies, and then whenever we want to restore that backup, we will be able to do it. Okay. Then yes, this is backup and recovery. Monitor Active Directory. How to monitor the Active Directory? There are multiple tools available, basically third-party tools available through which you can monitor your Active Directory also, right? How to offline maintenance, or how to restore the whole Active Directory part from using the backup service. Okay, so we are going to do this in this topic. Okay, now the certificate services, Active Directory Certificate Services, ADCS. I was talking about ADFS, right? Federation Services. In order to configure the Federation Services, we have to transfer the certificates. We have to transfer the trusted root certificates. Maybe these terms will be like tricky for you, or you're not able to get these terms, but for now need not to worry about it, right? Once we are going to touch this topic, I will be explaining each and everything. Okay, so in ADFS, what I have to do, I have to transfer the trusted root certificate onto both the domains, and then only I will be able to set up the trust federation services. Okay, so how to generate the certificate, how to be a certificate authority, right? How to generate the RDP certificate, how to generate the web server certificate. So these all things we are going to talk about in the AD certificate services. Okay. Then we have implementation of domain name system, DNS. The major thing, guys. AD is also a major part. Then again, DNS is also a major part of the servers. Right? You all are able to access all the website using the name. You are able to access nwkings.com with its name. How you are able to? That is all because of DNS. DNS is converting your query from name to IP and IP to name. That is why you are able to view any of the particular website with its name onto your browsers. Right? So how to configure it? We are going to talk about in this. And then the zones I was talking about. Okay. And then we have DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, assigning the IPs automatically to your client machines, to your end devices. What we have to do, we have to configure the DHCP, and under the DHCP you can configure your scopes. It can be either of IPv4 or it can be of IPv6, right? Then routing services. Yeah, for routing you are using routers in your organization, right? But a server also can act as a router. If you want, you will be able to communicate between two different networks. Obviously you have to do routing in that case, right? So either you can do it on your routers or you can do it on your servers. So how to do it, we will cover in this. Okay, then these are the zones: DNS server, DNS zones, DNS records, DNS replication. Now let's say if my primary zone is down, then in that case how my users will be able to resolve their queries. So in that case, what I have to do, I have to configure secondary zone, right? And guys, for all these topics, I have the PPTs. Don't worry. Okay, I'll show you now. So I have all the PPTs. What and all things we are talking here, right? Everything is explained in the PPTs. And even I'm going to give you a book as well, one PDF book as well, in which each and every topic is available of MCSA. Okay, so you can go through with that book as well. Along with it, you will be getting the PPTs as well. Okay. Now, network authentication, NAT, right? And then remote access. Now, let's say you want to take any system on remote, right? Then how to do it? Okay, so these all things we are going to cover in this module, in this fourth module, and then module 5, file and print services. So in the organization, you are going to have one printer, and that one printer you can connect with thousands of machines. So in order to do that, what we have to do, we have to configure the file and print services. Right? So by configuring this thing, what you can do with the group policies, you can install the printer onto the devices, and then your users will be able to take the printouts. And even you can define that what and all users can what and all users will be having the access to take the printouts, to send the print job to your printer. We can define that as well. Okay, so these all things we are going to cover under this. And then we have file distribution services, DFS, shadow copies, backup and restore. Again, in this thing also, if you want to configure the backup, so you can do that as well. Disk quota, you want to define the disk quota for each and every users. Nowadays it is not needed because you are using OneDrive, right? So in case of OneDrive, so by default you will be getting 1 TB space, right? Or it depends on the organization that what kind of access or what kind of license they procured, right? But earlier, what we were doing, we were defining the disk quota for the users, that users will be able to use only 200 GB space. More than 200, they will not be able to store any kind of data onto my storage, onto my file servers. Even nowadays also, companies who are not procuring or not going for the Office 365, right, still they are doing these things. And even not for Office 365, let's say you have one client, right, that client wants to store some data on your storage, then in that case you can define a limit that, hey, you will be having the access for 200 GB. More than that you will not be able to. If you want more than 200, then in that case you have to raise a request. Right, so it can be in, not for Office 365, it can be in other scenarios also. It depends again on the infrastructure, on the need of the infrastructure. Okay. Then network infrastructure, that is WSUS. Again, guys, the major topic, patching, Windows Server Update Services. Why it is needed? Because see, now if I want that my infrastructure should be compliant or should be secured, so in that case, what I have to do, I have to deploy the patches to my devices. Either it could be for your server operating system, or it would be for your client operating system. It can be for Windows 10 or Windows 11. So what Microsoft used to do, Microsoft released their patches on every second Tuesday of the month. Right? And as a system administrator, it is your responsibility to deploy all the latest patches to your end devices so that there would be no any vulnerability on the systems. No one will be able to hack your devices and all. Right? Might be you heard about that there was a vulnerability WannaCry. Right? So that was because the company or this vulnerability, it was attacking on that server which were not updated with the latest patches of the Microsoft. So it is very important for any organization to make their devices up to date with the latest patches of Microsoft. Right? And how we can do that? With the help of WSUS. Right? Then we have the WDS, again a major topic. How you can install the operating system onto your devices. Now let's say my organization has procured 100 laptops, right? So in that case, I am not going to use the operating system that is provided by the vendor. It may be a Dell, it may be HP, right? I don't want to use that particular operating system. So what I have to do, I have to re-image that laptop by my operating system, which I am going to deploy, right? So how we can do this? This is we can do with the help of Windows Deployment Services, WDS. Okay, any confusion till now?
No, sir.
All clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so then configuring high availability, configure storage. So have you worked on failover cluster in case of file servers?
Yes, sir.
Right. So again, so in the organization, guys, in the companies, what we have to make sure, we should have the backup of any of the feature that we are going to configure in our environment. If you're configuring PDC, then we should have ADC. If you are configuring WDS, then in that case, we should have one more WDS server, so that if one of the server is down, then from the second server, we will be able to deploy the operating system onto that particular laptop. Right. The same thing for our file server also. If you have configured the file server role onto a single server, right, and that server is down, then in that case, how your users will be able to store the data, how they will be able to access their own data.
So we
So
will be
what we have,
using DFS, no, sir, for this.
DFS is another thing, that is distributed file system. Okay, distributed file system is basically, now let's say I have the data which is available on multiple servers.
Yes, sir.
I
Okay,
have
just to
copy of
sync
data.
DR and primary, we can say that.
No,
We can
no,
use DFS to sync our
no,
data
no.
from DR to primary.
That is DFS replication.
Yeah,
Yes,
DFS replication.
exactly. This we can do. So we have two things in DFS basically. That is DFS namespace and DFS replication. Okay. So if you want to do the replication, then in that case, what you can do now, let's say these two are my client location, right? So I want all the data should be available on my main office, right? So in that case, what I will do, I will configure the DFS replication. What it will do, it will at the given interval of time, it is going to replicate the data to my primary location. This is called DFS replication. Now I'm talking about DFS namespace. Namespace is basically, let's say you have the data onto multiple servers. These are multiple file servers, right? So in order to access all the servers, how you will be able to access the data? कैसे access करोगे?
Either by using shared path or
Every time you have to give the share part of each and every server, yes or
yeah,
no?
yes.
Right.
Sir,
But what
yes.
I'm doing,
Every time.
but what I will do here, I'm going to configure one namespace.
Mm.
Under this namespace, what I will do, I'm going to add all the data which is available physically on multiple servers. राइट अब मुझे क्या करना है अब मुझे अलग से सर्वर एक्सेस नहीं करना अब मुझे सिर्फ नेम स्पेस एक्सेस करना है and under that namespace I will be able to access the data which is available on multiple servers. पहले यूजर क्या कर रहा था पहले सर्वर 1 पे जा रहा है तब एक्सेस कर रहे डेटा फिर सर्वर 2 पे जा रहा है फिर 3 पे जा रहा है फिर 4 पे जा रहा है but I don't want to do it right. I want to make thing as easy as possible. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm going to configure the namespace. The user will going to access the namespace, and then under that namespace I'm going to add the data which is available on multiple servers. That is called DFS DFS namespace, and this is called DFS replication. अब एक एग्जांपल ले लो जैसे ये हमारी चेन्स होती हैं फूड चेन्स होती हैं या फिर आपका ये होता है रिलायंस स्टोर्स होते हैं राइट सो 8 बजे के बाद वो क्लोज हो जाते हैं बंद हो जाते हैं आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट रिलायंस राइट मैंने देखा है रिलायंस 8 बजे के आसपास बंद हो जाता है राइट सो क्या चल रहा होता है अंदर रिकनसाइल चल रहा होता है सो व्हाट दे हैव टू डू दे हैव टू अपलोड द सेल्स that they did on a particular location and that sales should be available onto the corporate office of Reliance. Same for these MACDs and the Domino's and all. बोलते हैं ना 12 बजे के बाद बिलिंग नहीं होगा सर, नहीं हो पाएगा, बिलिंग क्लोज है, because data is replicated, the final data is replicated, so now they are not going to perform any kind of billing. So at the corporate office, so what and all accounts team is there, they will be able to check, they will be able to identify कि हाँ मेरे दिल्ली में जितने भी outlets हैं वहां पे कितना सेल हुआ, राइट या फिर पूरे इंडिया में कितना आउटलेट्स है उसमें मंडे का कितना सेल है, आई विल द अकाउंट्स यूजर्स विल बी एबल टू check it out, right? So for this thing we have to do the replication, DFS replication, here namespace, ठीक है? Okay, so I was on the file server basically now, ठीक है? So file server, I have to configure the high availability of my file server. So in order to configure the, yes please.
तो नेम सर्वर में ये सबका डेटा हमें सारा डेटा स्टोर रखना पड़ेगा।
ये जो आपने names, ये namespace, it is not a server, it is just a
Okay.
name that you have configured. It can be company data, right? And then this under company data you can add multiple folders that are available on multiple servers. मैं आपको पीपीटी से दिखाता हूं, maybe might be you will be able to understand it from there. बस ये सारी पीपीटीज है, right, that you are going to get once we are going to start the sessions. Okay, so DFS namespace and replication. तो namespace के बारे में बात कर रहा हूं मैं, देखो अब यहाँ पे क्या है, so I have 3 servers. So if I want to access PHP folder, I have to access this folder, this server. If I want to access Java folder, then I have to go to this server. If I have to access Android folder, then I have to access this server. But I don't want to bother all these things. So what I will do, I'm going to configure a namespace. And then onto this client machine, I'm going to just type the namespace. And then under that namespace, I will be able to access these 3 folders. No need to go individually onto the servers. Just go to namespace and then you will be able to access the data which you have added under the namespace. Understood?
Yes sir, understood sir.
Great. Okay जी. So now मैं file server के बारे में बात कर रहा था फिर से, ठीक है? So I want to configure the high availability of my file server, so that if any of the file server is down, in that case also my users will be able to store the data, my users will be able to access the data which is available on my file servers, or it can be for the application also. Now let's say your application is accessing your storage, right, and the storage you have configured on which server that is down, then obviously that application will not be able to store the data, will not be able to access the storage. So that is why what I have to make sure that there should be a high availability of file server is there, right? And by configuring it, I am making sure that at any point of time, my users, my applications will be able to access my storage. Okay. Okay. Then web server. Now you are able to access facebook.com. You are able to access nwkings.com. Why? कोई सर्वर तो होगा जहां पे वो कॉन्फ़िगर होगा, कोई इंस्टेंस तो होगा जहां पे वो कॉन्फ़िगर होगा. So how to configure it? How to work with the IIS servers? How to configure how to host your website? So that we are going to cover under this. Okay? And then you have FTP also, file transfer protocol. Nowadays we have SharePoints and all, okay? But obviously multiple organizations are working on FTP as well, SFTP as well, secure file transfer protocol. Right, so how to configure FTPs and all onto your servers, and how you can map your storage with the FTP servers. So we are going to talk about in this, right? And how websites can be accessed, which protocol we can use to access the website.
HTTPS.
Right, so HTTP works on which port number?
Double one.
80.
No, at HTTPS it is.
HTTPS works on port 80.
HTTP 80 and HTTPS 443.
443.
Yeah.
Exactly. HTTP works on 80 and HTTPS works on 443. Okay. So guys, what is the difference between both the protocols?
One is TCP, other is UDP.
Other than that,
No, actually, secure,
Secure.
more secure. If you want it more secure, then you're
Sir,
going
secure
go
socket
to
layer,
the
sir.
SS.
Difference is secure socket layer.
one by one, guys, one by one, please. हाँ बताओ.
FTP is less secure and SFTP is more secure.
अभी हम चलो वो ठीक है, बट अभी हम HTTP के बारे में बात कर रहे
Sorry.
हैं.
नाम को खाली चेंज कर दीजिए.
No worries, no worries.
एक्चुअली HTTP जो है वो सिक्योर कम है और HTTPS जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा सिक्योर है क्योंकि हम लोग
सिक्योर
SSL
कम मतलब
सर्टिफिकेशन.
सिक्योर है ही नहीं HTTP, right?
हाँ.
In case you are
हाँ.
accessing your website through HTTP, then in that case, whatever the data is traveling, that is going to be in the plain text.
Plain text.
Right. कोई
Right.
भी हैकर आपकी आइडेंटिटी देख लेगा, कोई भी हैकर आपका पासवर्ड एंड ऑल, he will be able to access it. But in case of HTTPS, the traffic is going to be encrypted. Now, how we can make the traffic encrypted? By configuring
SSL
Or
certificate.
using
SSL certificate, right? Now, let me show you. See, ये देखो. So you can see this lock here, right? And then go to connection is secure. You can see connection is secure, right? Why it is secure? Because the certificate is valid. A certificate is distributed to this my.webex.com. And this is the algorithm this is using, SHA-256 and SHA-1. So this algorithm is making your website secured. Right?
These
There
are
are
uploaded
multiple.
on the DNS servers, na?
No, you have to be, see, there are two options. Either you can make your own certificate, okay, or you can get it from any third party. अब देखो ये किसने किया है? Issued to Cisco, but issued by किसने किया है?
IdenTrust.
IdenTrust. ऐसे ही बहुत सारी कंपनीज है जैसे DigiCert ऑर्गेनाइजेशन,
हाँ.
Amazon करता है डिलीवर अपने सर्टिफिकेट्स, राइट? सो
बहुत सारा वेबसाइट भी है जो SSL सर्टिफिकेट प्रोवाइड करता है जैसे कि GoDaddy से लेके पूरा
बिल्कुल
होस्टिंग
करता है.
जो जितने भी सारा
होस्टिंगर, yes. From where you are procuring your domain, you are buying your domain, or from that as well you can get the certificate. अब देखो मैं, let me show you, maybe NW Kings getting the certificate from Amazon. I'm not sure, but let me check. No, there is something R3. Let's encrypt something, okay? But there are some more organization like DigiCert, okay? So these are the very well-known organizations which are making your, websites secured, making your. Now see, if I want to take any server on remote, right? Obviously that connection also should be encrypted, है ना? नहीं तो कोई भी मेरे कंपनी के नेटवर्क में घुस जाएगा, right?
सर एक
So
क्वेश्चन था.
yes, please, yes.
ये जैसे मैं अपने मतलब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में अगर फायरवॉल एक्सेस करता हूँ ना, तो
हाँ जी.
वो HTTP में ही आता है, तो उसको भी तो एन्क्रिप्ट कर सकते हैं ना सर, अगर मैं वैन से एक्सेस करना चाहूँ तो स्टैटिक आईपी पे.
बिल्कुल कर. अभी आप इंटरनली एक्सेस कर रहे होंगे, फिर तभी HTTP
हाँ,
पे चल रहा है
अगर मैं
इंटरनल
हाँ
नेटवर्क.
अगर मैं उसको मैं बाहर भी लेके आता हूँ ना सर, स्टैटिक आईपी से भी एक्सेस करता हूँ,
हाँ.
तो भी वो मतलब क्या नाम से HTTP पे ही आता है.
So
मतलब
you
वो
have to
जो आता है
configure the
ना
certificate.
सिक्योर्ड आता है.
हम्म.
हाँ, तो वो
Have
क्या
to
FortiGate के थ्रू लेना पड़ेगा या मतलब किसी थर्ड पार्टी के थ्रू बाय करना पड़ेगा?
third party के through you can buy.
अच्छा, फ्रॉम
Yes.
FortiGate.
Yes, even you can connect with the FortiGate customer care also. Okay, so they are going to help you out how you can go with the certificate. If they can provide, then it is well and good. If they cannot, they will give you the solution for that. Okay.
Right.
Okay, ji. So these are certificate topics, how we can make our website secure. So in that case, we have to configure the certificates. Then, okay. See, why this course is needed. First of all, I'm not very be honest with you all. Okay, certificate is not available of MCSA. Microsoft is not giving any kind of certificate. Right, you will not be certified because I believe at 2021 they expired this MCSA certificate. Okay, but if you want to go for this certificate, then in that case you can go for AZ 800. Administrating Windows Server. Okay, so you can go with this certificate if you want to do, but I would recommend you to go for 104 rather than going for this 800. Go for 104 because 104 also authenticates you that you have the information, sorry, you have the knowledge of servers as well as cloud both. So go for 104, right? Rest choice is yours. Then we have these topics, right? But what I used to do, I prepared one Excel sheet, right? So based on that Excel sheet, I used to track on each and every topic, right? Let me show you that. See, so these are the around 45 topics that we are going to cover. Right? So this basically helps me, or even you also, to make a track on your topics so that we are not going to miss any kind of topic in this whole module. Right, let me cover that also. First of all, the introduction, right, and then how we can configure our VMs and all, how we can use the virtualization tool and all, right? Then type of DCs that I have already explained, which is PDC, ADC, CDC, RODC. Then Active Directory, then domain and OU delegation. See, in any of the organization, even if you have a 10-year of experience also, they are not going to give you the admin rights on their AD. Might be you have experienced or you are experiencing, right? So based on your the time you are spending in the organization, based on that only they will be giving you the full rights on their AD. Right? So how to give the delegate control? Now I want that Shehbaz will only be able to create the users in my AD. Apart from that, he will not be able to do any kind of thing in my Active Directory. I can do that by doing the delegate control. And delegate control we can give by two ways. Either you can give the delegate control for your whole domain or for the OU, organizational unit. ठीक है, ये बताऊंगा आगे कैसे करते हैं, कैसे करना कॉन्फ़िगर. Then RSET, remote server administration tools. Directly, no need to log in on your domain controller. What you can do, you can install RSET tool on your Windows 10 laptop, and then you will be able to manage your whole Active Directory. No need to log in onto your domain controller.
आई थिंक ये हेल्प डेस्क टीम या साइबर डेस्क टीम को यही प्रोवाइड करते हैं सर.
Exactly. Right? So this can be installed on your Windows 10 or Windows 11 devices or the laptop you are using as a IT admin, and then you will be able to manage your Active Directory. Whatever the things you can perform on the domain controller, same things you will be able to perform in this RSET tool. Okay. Group policy and then AD administrative center. It is also it is basically the updated version of your Active Directory, under which you will be able to add multiple security feature for a user account. Okay, that I'll show you on this. And then DHCP failover. See, I was talking about that there should always be a backup, right? Now let's say if my DHCP is failed, then in that case, how I will be able to distribute the IPs? So in that case, what I can do, I can configure the DHCP failover, right? And then we have DHCP relay agent. Relay agent is basically, now let's say I have two different networks. One is class A and the second is class B. I want to distribute the IPs of class A and class B simultaneously. How I will be able to do? I have to configure the relay agent. Okay, and then with the help of relay agent, I will be able to distribute the IPs. Then FTP web server, network load balancing cluster. Now, if you're going to configure IIS, or if you're going to host a website, then in that case, you have to make sure that if one server is down, then in that case, your website should always be available. So for that, what you have to do, network load balancing cluster you have to configure. Okay, and then अब थोड़ा सा स्पीड से चल रहा हूं मैं. NLB, then profiles and folder redirection, types of trust, NAT, network address translation, file and print management, VPN, VPN with NPS, VPN with radius server, and then remote desktop services, data deduplication, BitLocker, file server resource manager, FSRM, storage, FSMO roles, shadow copies, DFS, replication and namespace, WSUS, patching, FSMO roles, seize and transfer, right? And then AD migration or upgradation. Now let's say you are running Active Directory on 2012. I gave you the scenario, right, where actually Microsoft is going to terminate the support for 2012 R2. But now let's say your organization is still using primary domain controller on 2012 R2, right? Then obviously you have to upgrade it to 2019 or maybe 2022, whatever the flavor you want to use. So how to do that, we are going to cover in this. Then ADFS, then backup, how to configure the backup, how to configure the incremental backup, right? Whole server backup, bare metal backup, a particular file backup, a particular drive backup. So all these things we are going to cover under this. Okay, ji. Then we have WDS, Windows Deployment Services, and then sysprep, and then RAID configuration. In storage, you are going to work on RAID. RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 1 plus 0, right? How to configure it, why it is needed. So we are going to do. So these all topics you are going to experience, you are going to see in any of the organization. So it is totally, you can say, based on my 7 years of experience, right? All these topics I have introduced with the real time scenarios. Even if you are working in the organization, might be you are able to relate with all these topics. Okay, chalo ji. IFM, install from media, and then AD sites and services, IPAM, then failover in file server. Okay, that is failover cluster, and then DNS, and then forest and domain function level, and then Active Directory certificate services, and then NIC teaming, and then the last, not the least, which is PowerShell. So all these 44 topics we are going to cover in this module. Along with it, what and all tools organizations are using, like Windows Admin Center, right? RDC Manager, right? What and all vulnerability tools they are using, like Qualys, Nessus. What and all patching tools they are using, like Software Center, MECM, SCCM, basically, Software Center Configuration Manager. Then Automox, Ivanti, F-Secure, right? So I will be giving you the glimpse of that tools also, because see, in the interviews, or if you are going to the naukri.com, at in the profile, you will be able to see that organizations are asking that you should be having the knowledge on these tools, right? So how to use these tools, what and all tools companies are using. So with that thing, I'm going to help you out. Okay. And as I told you, for all these topics, I have already prepared the PPTs. So these PPTs, I'm going to create one Google Classroom for you all, right? So once we are going to start our first class, I will be giving you the links to join the classroom. And over there, you will be able to get all these PPTs. You can download it. You will be having the rights for it. And then what and all could be the interview question related to this. For that as well, I'm going to give you the interview questions. What and all common ports are being used by the applications. Oh, so okay, one interview question. On which port number DHCP works?
67 client side, 68 server side.
Right. Then SSH, FTP,
23.
22 SSH, 23 telnet.
Okay, so all these things, because see, if you have the 10-year of experience also, then in that case interviewer is going to check out your basic knowledge as well. So these are the very basic things. Okay.
Sir, we will discuss on LDAP, sir. LDAP.
Yes, LDAP, yes. What do you want to ask for LDAP?
No, actually we are about that कि हम लोग LDAP के बारे में डिस्कस करते हैं ना, लोग मैक्सिमम लोग लैब CY यूज करते हैं लोकल पासवर्ड जनरेट करने के लिए.
ओके 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 ओके, लोकल एडमिन पासवर्ड के लैब्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हो आप?
हाँ
लोकल
हाँ
एडमिन
सर.
पासवर्ड सर्विस.
यस सर.
ओके 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 ओके, गॉट इट गॉट
तो
इट.
ये हम लोग अपने AD पे इस पे कॉन्फ़िगर करते हैं ना, लैब
राइट
CY.
राइट, बिल्कुल जी, बिल्कुल 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 बिल्कुल. Okay, so interview questions, what and all can be there, right? I'm going to give you the interview question like related to AD. What and all things interviewer can ask. Okay, so what is AD? Database of AD, how do you promote a server to DC, FSMO roles, tree versus forest, physical and logical components of AD. So this is based on the real time interviews, guys. मैंने अपने आप से कोई Google से copy नहीं किया है ये, right? So this is what I have faced in the last 7 years. ठीक है? Okay, so then, I was talking about book, right? So this is the book that I'm going to upload. ये राजी book आपके लिए, right? In which it covers 740, 741 and 742. So what and all topics we are going to cover? So as I told you, all the topics are going to be practical based. ठीक है? मैं theoretical, I'm just going to cover the theory part which is available in the PPT, right? But if you want to dig dive into the topic, then in that case you can go through with this book. ठीक है? कोई भी topic search करना है, just find it and get the knowledge. And even you will be getting the scenario based labs also. Okay, basically that assignments I'm going to provide. Okay. Okay, so this is all about this session, guys. If you have any kind of query, we are open for that. You can ask, you can unmute and you can ask.
Sir,
Hanji.
Vinay this side.
Yes,
Hello.
Vinay, please go on.
सर
Yeah, you
मैं
are
ना
audible. Please go.
मैं ना सर वोडाफोन आइडिया में टेलीकॉम डोमेन में काम करता हूँ सर. मुझे ना ये कंफ्यूजन था कि ये सर्वर इन सब चीज़ों पे काम नहीं, क्योंकि मेरा ISP है, इंटरनेट सर्विस प्रोवाइडर. तो ये जो कोर्स है MCS से, ये मुझे CCNA का भी मैंने ले रखा है. तो CCNA से पहले करना चाहिए कि CCNA के बाद में, क्योंकि ये सर्वर वगैरह एकदम मेरे लिए नया ही रहेगा पूरा.